We can still talk. You know how newscasters be like, and then they're on, and they're like, oh, throw that coffee. Like, crap.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So.
Welcome to unBasic Black. I am Angel.
I'm May.
And today we are talking about what I believe most Americans are probably talking about this week. And it's all of the violence and animosity and hatred that has been perpetrated against African Americans this week.
Yeah.
It's been a rough couple of days.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, it's been a rough couple of months.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
It has been rough, and I know that for a moment ignorance was bliss. It seemed like things had calmed down because no one was out and about and doing things. Mm-hmm. And then we find out that back in February, a guy was killed by civilians because he looked like somebody that the police were looking for.
Right.
So, and then from then on, then news started coming out as people started getting out of their houses. And now this latest thing, there was the lady in Central Park calling the police on a bird watcher. And then now there's George Floyd, and he seems to be the straw that's broken the camel's back. Right.
And I think one of the things that is so poignant for a lot of the incidents that have been happening across the country is that we've finally been able to document and record these things in history. So it's not just, you know, a lot of Black people saying these things happen to us, because this is nothing new, actually.
Right.
It's just now it's being perpetrated in the media so much because there's actual video evidence showing people committing these crimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So looking at, you know, like there's been a lot of protests that have broken out across the country. Just to name a few, I'll pull up here. Portland, San Jose, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Denver, Albuquerque, Houston, Memphis, Atlanta, Louisville, of course, St. Paul, Minnesota, Minneapolis, Detroit, Columbus, Washington, New York, Boston. You know, it's been a hot mess across the whole country.
All right. And I mean, if you look at the map, then you can see how a lot of these places were places. Of course.
You shut me down. Stupid thing. Like, geez. I'll have to edit that now.
Dang it.
I don't know how to keep that light on. Yours just stays on?
Mm-hmm. It'll stay on.
All right.
So if we look at a lot of these places, a lot of these places have been hotbeds for racial tension anyway.
Right. And I think that's probably why there are so many protests in those areas.
Right. Yeah. It's like, again?
Right. Again, it being the operative word, you know. And when you look at just the sheer nature of what has occurred with a lot of these incidences. I mean, you have, you know, Trayvon Martin a couple of years ago, where the individual literally is just walking down the street.
Right.
How is that suspicious?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And then even more recently with Ahmaud, you know, it's like, how is it possible that this man looks suspicious when he's jogging along?
Right. He's in workout gear.
Mm-hmm. So what is it about the African American that makes us look so suspicious? Let's take a look at that bird watcher from Central Park. Dude had on glasses, no offense to the sight challenged. I wear contacts myself, right? I can't see at all, you know, so he is out in Central Park bird watching and confronts an individual regarding you know, we know the story regarding the individual not having their dog on a leash.
Right.
That turns into a full-blown confrontation, which boiled down to this woman did not like somebody, I don't know if it was somebody Black or if it was just somebody telling her what to do. You know, making her own that she was breaking the law.
Right.
So then she decides that she wants to play the race card. She wants to throw race into it.
Hello. there is a black man, an African-American man, threatening me and my dog, as she's choking her dog, threatening me and my dog.
Choking that dog out.
I was like, Fluffy. There's someone threatening me. There's a black man threatening me.
I was like, Fluffy is having a bad day because she choked the heck out of that dog. I was like, seriously. But I did read that they have removed the dog from the home, which I'm very glad about. You know, maybe she'll get the dog back. Because the dog, poor thing.
Go to counseling for how to treat animals during racial situations.
Right. Yeah, really. Not for the actual, you know, the racism that she perpetrated, but for the animal. And, you know, so back to what we were saying about these protests that have, you know, broken out across the country. Right. It's just indicative of what we're seeing. People are angry, people are tired, and you compound that with the fact that a large majority of those individuals have been stuck in the house because of COVID-19. Right. You know, they're frustrated because they want to get back to work. They want to get back to some sense of normalcy. And we still have to deal with something like racial profiling. Right. And just out and out bigotry.
And it's like, haven't we proven enough that we look different from one another?
Yeah, exactly. And I was looking at a Facebook post. I don't know if it was a real Time magazine cover or if somebody like wrote it in, but it had, you know, like 1960 and it was crossed out with red ink, and then it had 2005 crossed out in red ink, and then 2020. And that, for me, that was so profound. Yeah. Because this day and age, Dr. Martin Luther King had a dream. Right. And this is not it. Right. We really thought we were getting there. Right. We really thought we were getting there. And then here we are, 2020, and it's like we have backtracked so far that it is sad.
But every time it's almost like it's a reminder that you can't relax yet.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's like and now it feels like every few months, but it seemed like maybe every few years something would catch national attention. Right. And we're like, during 2000? During 2005? Right. 2010? 2015? 2020? Right. So it just seems like, no, it's not time yet. And then, I don't know how to put this politely, but I mean, I'm unapologetic. So then there are some white people that are like, why do you keep bringing this up? And we keep saying, because it keeps happening.
And that's exactly right. I mean, there's nothing politically incorrect about that statement. It is 100% true. We keep talking about it because it keeps happening. And that's why I'm so glad these incidences are being caught on camera. They're being caught on film, so that way people can't deny this. Right. You know, they can't deny this. And if you listen to a lot of the leadership across the country, even in the cities where these protests are happening, everybody's like, we understand. Right. We don't want you to tear up the city. Right. But we understand.
Yeah, you have a right to be angry. This was...
Darn you, camera. And I can't use the light on my phone. Okay. What were you saying? You were saying, and we were talking about how the leadership, they understand. Right,
they understand, and now, whereas before it would have been let's look at the facts before we jump to conclusions. Right. But now it's we get why you're angry. Right. We understand you have a right to be angry, but please don't tear up our city. Right.
I mean, but if you look at the video of George Floyd, and there's even new video that has come out, so we can see this thing from all different angles. There's new video that came out to where you saw this individual being held down by 3 police officers, the police officer in the middle, and when I saw the vision, it reminded me of Rodney King. Yeah. All of those police officers swarmed around this one man, just beating him to death. Yeah. And here we are again in another situation where you have an individual who was suspected of doing something, not even necessarily sure that this was even the guy. Right. They didn't even know if this was a guy. Right. And you're talking about a non-violent crime. Check fraud. You're insured.
Leonardo DiCaprio got an Academy Award for it.
You know what I'm saying? And the guy who did all of that fraud, he actually ended up working for the FBI in their fraud department. So I'm like, you're talking about an individual who was suspected of a non-violent crime, and you felt the need to do that. What the heck is with that excessive force? Right. There is no reason for that. And then this individual screaming, pleading for his life. Right?
Yeah.
Pleading for his life.
Help me. I can't breathe.
It's gut-wrenching. It really is.
To talk about again.
Yeah. Again. And
I lose my words because I'm like, what else can we say? How can we and it's not like people don't understand,
right,
kind of thing, because there's a whole bunch of support going out from all over the country. I was reading a tweet this morning, and I forget the guy who tweeted it, but Marina Sirtis, who's Deanna Troi on Star Trek, she retweeted what he said, and he was saying he's a white guy, and he said, white people, wake up, there is injustice. These things should not be happening. Take a knee, kind of thing. And then I'm like, Colin Kaepernick, now you want to take a knee? But at any rate, so he posted something. Then I went to his actual post and saw what he posted, and I'm like, okay, all right. And then he had said something else, and it's like, yeah, I know.
This is our issue,
right?
You know, and which is what I said to them. This affects you just as much as it affects me, because now all of these cities across the country are burning. They're burning. Your city, you know, not my city, thank God, but many cities are burning. And the sheer anger and the sheer, you know, outrage that I'm seeing in a lot of these protests, it's understandable. But, you know, it definitely isn't just black people that's out there protesting. I've seen all races. In fact, one, when I was looking at from last night in Minnesota, I was like looking, I was looking for black people. I was like, where black people at? You know, because there were a lot of other races out there, which is a good thing, because we've got to stand together on this issue. Right. It can't be allowed to go on anymore. Right. You know,
and I will say I appreciate that, and again, going back, it kind of reminds me of the civil rights movement, and that it wasn't. Eventually, it wasn't just black people marching for civil rights and risking their lives for civil rights. It was Caucasians, and I don't know about Hispanics or anything like that, but what affects one race is going to affect everybody else, because out of the civil rights movement came more legislation for women and eventually the LGBTQ community. So if one race goes down, it's a trickle down effect. Then that's going to leave doors open for other things. Have you seen any video or news coverage about the civic leaders coming out and saying anything? I have not seen any civic leaders step forward to try to calm everything down.
Like Al Sharpton and all those folks? No, I haven't.
Jesse Jackson, is he still alive?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything like that either. Oprah did put something on Facebook,
but she's not a civic leader.
She's not. Well, she's kind of become one.
She's
she's a influencer. Yeah, she's an influence. So, but yeah, I haven't seen any from anybody like that. President Obama, yes, I still call him president. President Obama issued a statement, you know, so a couple of people have been issuing statements. A lot of celebrities have been chiming in. But yeah, I haven't seen anything from any activists. Right. You know?
That's what I'm asking about. Any activists? And I thought that was really strange, because I thought from the beginning they would have jumped in, like when things happened in Ferguson. Right. All the activists came out and said, "Let's keep calm. Right. Please don't burn your neighborhood."
Right. And I think this is one of those situations where people are just so tired, because it was literally back to back. Right. You know,
yeah, like within a span of 2 or 3 weeks, because first we got the news about what happened in February, and then from there.
Oh, so the other one was Breonna Taylor.
Oh no,
that was an individual. Now that was also a situation where could that situation have been avoided? Because you have a situation where the police were serving a warrant on her boyfriend.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Police were serving a warrant on her boyfriend and ended up shooting her 8 times. 8. And, you know, people, and it was like back to back. And then you had the cover up from February where we wouldn't have even known about it.
Right.
This individual going out for a jog. These people weren't charged. Nothing happened to them. Had that video not been leaked, we never would have known about it.
Right.
And it would have been business as usual. And the poor family of this guy would have had to just suffer in silence.
Right.
You know? And then you have the incident that happened in Central Park.
Yeah.
And then you have George Floyd.
And then
Right. And it's like, these were literally back to back to back. So I am honestly looking at the news and, you know, all of these things like just dumbfounded. Like, what in the world is happening? And maybe that's what they don't know what to say.
Right.
You know, because I am not a fan of violence. I advocate against it. I think we need to find a way to work together and come up with some sort of nonviolent approach.
Right.
But when you see the anger and the outrage and the outpouring of just sheer frustration
Right.
and just people being fed up,
Right.
you can't say anything to that, which is why a lot of the leadership is like, we understand. They don't know what else to say.
Right.
Because it's like, how can you tell these people that they should not be angry?
Right.
Go home, wait it out, let
calm
us
down.
handle it.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
handle it the way you've always handled it,
Exactly.
which is to do nothing.
Right. And I'm out of words.
Yeah. And it really is a situation where you end up lost for words, because it's like, how many times are we going to have this conversation?
And that's been my question for years, particularly when I became of an age where I really started paying attention to things that were going on around me. That blissful ignorance was just shot out the window.
Right.
I guess particularly with Rodney King, and then you start really looking around like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
I really need to have a talk with my son to let him know
Oh, you do.
that you are a black man in America.
Exactly.
And there are certain things that you need to not do, and then
Right.
there are certain things you need to do if you plan on getting ahead.
And it's not even black men anymore. It's not even black men anymore. So it's not just men either that are subject to this, because you remember Sandra Bland. I'm sorry, I blanked on her name for a minute. You remember her story, an individual, and she had literally just pulled out of a college campus to go get some groceries.
Right.
And ended up getting pulled over by the cops for making an illegal lane change, which ended up with her dead.
Right.
How does that happen?
And to make things just kind of odd about the whole thing is that she was exercising her right as an American citizen to question the police. Why are you doing this?
Right.
And if I remember correctly, in the video you can see her saying that I have a right to know why you're stopping me and why you're treating me this way, and I do have a right to record you and things like that. And he was demanding that she put out her cigarette and that she was and all this stuff. And she was calm. She wasn't belligerent. She wasn't anything. She was just questioning his authority. Right. And he took it from 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds to where he was pissed. And talking about tasing her, talking about, macing her and all this other stuff. And it's like, why? I have not done anything. Right. Just give me the ticket. And it's like, this ends in this lady being her death. Right. And how does that happen? Cops, and I've seen them pull over other people, and the women to get out. Right. And what about the video? Not to mention cops. There was a video that came out. I mean, this was years ago, where the individual is on the. Screaming at the police. It took 15 minutes for her to get tased. And it was like, it's the inequality is just so blatant that you can't help but be tired. Right. You can't help but be tired, because it's like, how many times do we have to explain this to people that this is stuff that's common? Right. This is common. You guys are just now getting into the fight. Right. Right. You guys are just now hearing about these things and as accepting these things, I should say, because we've been saying it for years. Right. You're just now accepting the fact that these things have been happening for a very long time. Right. Because now we've got video in your face. Right. Officer so-and-so. Right.
You know, there's video in your face. And now that we have YouTube and, you know, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and all these things, we can show these in real time.
Right.
We're filming live. We can
Yeah.
show these things in real time saying, this is what's happening right now.
Right.
Can you believe
And that's
this?
a trippy thing too, is that people can go Facebook Live or Instagram Live or Snapchat Live or whoever and show, this is happening to me right now. Do you see what?
Do you see what
he's doing?
these people are doing to me?
Right.
Yeah, and it's not just the police; it's citizens too,
Right.
just taking it upon themselves to say. And I'm still trying to understand, what do you consider suspicious? What is suspicious? A black man walking. Is that suspicious?
Black men hanging out in Starbucks,
Is that suspicious?
waiting for their friend.
Having coffee. You're having coffee in a coffee shop.
Shopping in a mall.
Shopping in a mall. Is that suspicious?
Walking through a store looking for gifts for your loved ones.
Sitting in your vehicle.
I think there was a post where it was a list like this
Oh, yeah.
long
Yeah.
of, we can't do this, no sitting in the car,
Right.
no sitting in the store, no sitting at the coffee shop.
Right. Right.
No walking on the
No
street,
walking,
no
no
jogging,
jogging.
no exercise.
Exactly. Exactly. So my question is, what do you want?
Right.
Because we are making some pretty good strides in terms of education and, you know, employment and all of these things, but
Right.
that doesn't seem to make a difference, because
Right.
you've had people who were actual judges who have been pulled over just the same. And they've even said, I'm a district attorney who was a district attorney at the time, now a judge. I'm a district attorney. They didn't care. And they're like, we're going to search your vehicle. You cannot do that. And they're spitting out case law because they're attorneys.
Right.
They're spitting out case law saying you do not have the right to do that under code such and such and such and such. And they're like, we don't care what you say. Get out of the car or we're going to force you out, you know, and all of these kind of things. And it's like, it boggles the mind.
Yeah.
It really does.
So now I wonder, since it's all across America now, we know the initial reaction of 45. So what is Congress going to do? How are we going to be able to come to the table and everybody sit down and be listened to?
Honestly, I really think it depends on how much noise we make and how much noise we continue to make. Because you remember when we were getting like these back-to-back school shootings. Everybody was outraged, people protested, they called for, you know, reform and legislation and all of these things.
Right.
Here we are in 2020, and what have we seen?
Nothing.
Nothing. Nothing at all. So we as a people are going to have to keep our foot on the gas.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to boil down to.
Right.
We are going to have to put our foot on the gas and say, we're going to keep going and we're not going to stop.
Right.
You know, because I think about, you know, everything that's happened over the years, and nothing has changed. I think it's just in people's faces now, because if you look at 1960s, we're having the same conversation.
We are.
Our
Almost
conversation,
verbatim.
yes, our conversation hasn't changed. And you would think after all these years that there would be some progress.
Right. And just because there's no Jim Crow doesn't mean that the ideas behind it don't still exist.
Exactly, which is
It
why
is called institutionalized racism for a reason.
Exactly, which is why you still have, you know, I know a lot of places are doing away with their affirmative action, but you still have equal employment.
Right.
The whole reason we still have to have equal employment is because it's not equal. Statistics, and people report it, you know, with pride, that the salary differences between men and women
Black and white.
is ridiculous, between black and white.
Right. So
Between
and there's a
men and
hierarchy
women.
that it ends up being.
Exactly. It's ridiculous. And it's like, when you accept these kind of things as the norm, nothing changes.
Right.
Because we cannot afford to continue in the trajectory that we're going.
We cannot. So elections coming up. Hold your lawmakers to the fire. They
Right.
need to be held accountable. and let them know that the status quo is not acceptable. That's why the midterms was so, I think the word is poignant.
Right.
Because people said, we're not doing this again. We are not doing this again. And the people who came into office said, okay, we're going to make sure that this does not happen again.
Right.
They've been stalled a little bit. But you hear about them, and they tend to make other people angry. So we know they're doing something right.
Right. They're doing something right. Exactly. So, yeah. But we're going to continue to follow this, you know, because I have a feeling that this is going to last a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because they got to put the fires out.
They got to put the fire, literally, they got to put the fires out, and figuratively speaking, they have to put the fires out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of days and the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, my hope and prayer and thoughts and all that kind of thing is that they do not do like a Band-Aid thing.
Right.
And they really go for solutions. And I think one of the solutions would be is that you can't change people, but at least you can make people less ignorant about things, because sometimes it's just a matter of ignorance. You don't know me, so you don't trust me. Right. I get that part. So get to know me. Right.
And understand that people are people. Yeah. You know, black, white, it doesn't matter. We all want the same things. Right. That life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We all want the same thing. So, you know, there's no reason to still have this fear, because, you know, and I say this all the time, that we've been around for a while together. We started this country together. So it's not like we're some foreign race that you are like, who are these people? We don't know anything about them. I'm leery. Right. So there's no reason for this. If you have not acclimated yourself to people outside of your race, that's because you've chosen not to. Right. So we definitely need to come together. And I know we keep saying this, come together over COVID-19, but we really need to come together as a human race. Right. We need to come together as for humanity. Right. You know? So the last thing I really want to say is to all the protesters out there, keep going. Make your voices heard. Just be safe and don't tear up your own cities. Yeah. Because that's your tax dollars that's going to have to fix all of that. Yeah. Don't tear up your own cities. Just make your voices heard. You have a right to peacefully assemble. Right. So do that. Peacefully assemble and make your voices heard. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys getting out there, taking to the streets and making sure that people listen to you. I think it's important that we continue to do that. So I do thank you for that. I just want you to be safe. I don't want you to hurt anybody, and I don't want you to hurt yourselves. Right. Because ultimately, you're the ones that are going to pay for that in the end. So be safe and take care of yourselves.
Right. Likewise. Right. She said it.
All right, so this is Angel.
This is May.
And we are unBasic Black. We're going to be talking about this as time goes on. So join us again and comment down below. Yeah, let us know what you think. Because
subscribe.
Sometimes we got to get those emotions out. So if you want to talk about something, put it down below and we'll talk about it. Right. We're open, so we'll talk about anything. So if you have a comment down below and we'll talk. All right? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.